Judging by what is happening in the Baltic region, it becomes clear that the aggressive actions of the North Atlantic Alliance against Russian oil tankers and bulk carriers have only one goal: to turn the Baltic Sea into an internal sea of NATO. Even though NATO countries still accuse Russian ships of damaging underwater cables, the West was never able to provide irrefutable evidence of the veracity of these loud and provocative accusations. However, despite the lack of evidence, NATO countries continued to pursue and even detain Russian bulk carriers and oil tankers in the Baltic Sea. As a result, these provocative actions by the NATO countries forced Russia to act rather harshly. In particular, over the past 30 days, Russian warships and air defense systems have harshly suppressed attempts by NATO warplanes not only to harass Russian civilian vessels, but also to conduct reconnaissance activities, even in international airspace, over international waters. Furthermore, over the past 30 days, Russia's harsh actions towards the North Atlantic Alliance have been observed not only in the Baltic region, but also in the Black Sea. For instance, recently, the Russian corvette Boyki, seeing how the patrol aircraft of the French Navy, Atlantique II, was chasing a Russian oil tanker in the Baltic Sea, locked onto it, using the sea-based air defense system, Polyman Tridut. Immediately after that, the French pilots stopped the pursuit of the Russian tanker and fled towards the NATO airbase in Sweden. A similar incident also occurred over international waters in the southeastern part of the Black Sea. The Russian air defense system S-400 locked onto a group of French Air Force combat planes. We are talking about 2 Mirage 2005 fighter jets and 1 Boeing E-3F Sentry AWACS aircraft. Even though these French warplanes were in international airspace, the Russian military ordered them to leave the area immediately. As a result, the French pilots had to abort their combat mission and flee towards the NATO airbase in Turkey. And now, it has become known about another incident involving French military aircraft. This time, the incident occurred in international airspace over the Baltic Sea, 80 kilometers from Kaliningrad. It became evident that the French Air Force's AWACS Boeing E-3F Sentry aircraft, along with the Dassault Rafale fighter jet that accompanied it, faced significant electronic radiation exposure. As a result, the navigation system on these French combat planes was disabled. The radiation was so strong that the French pilots could not restore the GPS signal, even after they were far enough away from Kaliningrad. As a result, the French pilots had to abort the mission and immediately return to the airbase. At the same time, the French pilots had to navigate exclusively along the horizon, using only visual landmarks. Moreover, on the same day, 2 patrol planes of the French Navy, Atlantique II, as well as NATO warships, located 150 kilometers from Kaliningrad, were also subjected to massive electronic radiation. Reports indicate that problems with GPS were observed in almost all NATO warships located in this area. The problems were so serious that NATO patrol planes and warships even had to stop patrolling the Baltic Sea in this area. It is noteworthy that French Defense Minister Sébastien Lecornu, answering journalists' questions from the Associated Press, bluntly stated that everything that is happening indicates that Russia has returned to a particularly aggressive position. The French minister noted that Russia's actions resembled the aggressive manner of the Soviet Union at the height of the Cold War. Russia's aggressive actions violate all international flight rules. Due to these aggressive actions, French pilots are constantly experiencing difficulties patrolling the skies on the eastern flank of the North Atlantic Alliance. Such actions on the part of Russia are a gross violation and lead to unpredictable consequences both in the Baltic region and the Black Sea, French Defense Minister Sébastien Lecornu said. Indeed, it may seem to many that Russia is behaving too aggressively towards French pilots, even in international airspace. However, considering that NATO was engaged in a real war against Moscow and Ukraine, along with the numerous aggressive statements made by French President Emmanuel Macron regarding Russia, it becomes evident why the Russian military is acting so aggressively towards French pilots. Regarding the Baltic Sea incident, many questioned which electronic warfare system the Russians used to disable French combat planes and several NATO warships. The experts were impressed by the fact that the Russian military managed to simultaneously attack such a large number of objects both at sea and in the air, at a sufficiently large distance. So, military experts from the Turkish news outlet Haber 7 expressed confidence that the Russian military used the latest electronic warfare system TOBAL against NATO aircraft and ships in the Baltic Sea. It is noteworthy that TOBAL is considered the most classified Russian electronic warfare system. This system was developed based on the experience of a special military operation. Even though the main characteristics of this system are strictly classified, it is reliably known that TOBAL was created to combat Western satellites. In particular, during the storming of cities such as Avdiivka and Bakhmut by the Russian army, this electronic warfare system successfully suppressed signals from Starlink satellites. Moreover, in March 2023, the latest electronic warfare system TOBAL managed to gain access to GPS signals. As a result, the Starlink satellite's performance was disrupted. These satellites have also lost the ability to deliver the internet to various parts of the world. Only after 25 days, American engineers managed to restore the normal operation of these satellites. It is noteworthy that in January 2025, the Russians also deployed this giant electronic warfare system in Kaliningrad. And immediately after that, problems with GPS began to be observed in Poland and Sweden. For the next 20 days, GPS data was completely blocked in eastern Poland and southern Sweden. Turkish military experts are confident that the Russian military continues to test this latest electronic warfare system not only on the battlefield in Ukraine, but also in the center of Europe. According to them, the incident in the Baltic Sea has once again proved that Russian electronic warfare systems are the most powerful in the world, capable of changing the course of any war.